Hey, welcome to C's Backstage. This is your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, C's very own Chief Experience Officer, here to guide you through all of the nuances of live event production. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at cspro.com/backstage or wherever you get your favorite podcast so you too can be backstage. On today's podcast, we're talking about in-house AV companies and working with in-house power rigging. Maybe you need to source some equipment from in-house, or maybe you're trying to decide as a buyer if you want to use in-house or use an external company like us.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, I think there's a time and a place where in-house makes sense. They will lead you to believe that that's every time. But I think as a buyer, you should know there are other options, right? To bring in a third party that may be better suited for what you're trying to do. That said, there are some things that you're going to have to use them for every single show. Generally, it's power, it's rigging, it's internet. But beyond that, you are free to bring in whatever vendor you want. And they may scare you with penalties, but yeah, you have a choice, I guess is the point.
Yeah, and typically those penalties are less than what it would be to bring us in.
Certainly can be.
Yep.
Yep.
And sometimes even with rigging, like sometimes some venues will be, we can even do our own rigging. Some venues will be, we have to provide the motors or we have to provide the chain mounts or whatever, and we can bring in truss. We can bring in. So it's a conversation, and they scare you right off the top, because even when you go to a venue's website, often it'll say our preferred in-house or our signed in-house AV company. And those words make you think that, oh, I've got to use that company. But I can't think of a single venue that I've not been allowed to go into, that we've not been allowed to go into.
Yeah. I mean, I've had clients say to me, they're not allowed to use me, but I don't know that to ever be true.
Yeah. I mean, even the, people always think about the big cities, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, to an extent, Las Vegas, where it might be a union venue, but we can still go in. We can hire the union ourselves. We can probably work with them in a little bit different way. I think a lot of the biggest difference from me, even having been a buyer, having been on the client side, is that, if I use in-house, they're there for the venue, right? They're there to represent the venue, to make sure they're making their money, and they're protecting the carpet, and they're doing the things that they've discussed with, they've got the insurance, we've got the insurance. But the thing with using an outside company like C's Productions or whoever your outside company is, we're there for you. Yeah. We're there for you first. And then we're still going to take care of the venue. We're still going to do all those things to make sure that we've got the insurance in place. We're hiring probably the same people, right? If we're using local freelancers and that sort of thing. Yeah. So you're really getting from the get-go somebody who's there as an extension of you.
Yeah, and I think that is the big difference is if you get, like you said, a third party, ultimately, we know if we don't do a good job, we're probably not going to get hired back, right? But in-house companies, they exist there, whether they screw up your show or the next 10 or whatever. They have these long-term deals, and I think that I don't want to say everybody, because I know, like, even here we have some in-house workers that are like great, right? So this isn't meant to, whatever the word is, label everybody. There's great in-house companies out there, but for the most part, the hotels and the in-house companies, I think, are more concerned with the profit they're making than whether those shows are going well.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah. We talk about the journey, right? The journey from when you meet a client, taking them all the way through building and setting up their show, making sure we are delivering on everything that they're hoping for, making sure that we understand that, maybe this meeting is internally facing for them, or it's externally. It's facing new customers, new clients, or it's internal facing their sales team or their management team or something like that. We're there for the whole journey. We're there to have that conversation months before, where an in-house really is like, well, we're working on these shows right now. Yeah. Well, when you get here, we'll be ready for you. Right. As opposed to, let's have that conversation together. Let's move it along together and get to the spot where we're all coming in together and we're building this event.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I don't have anything to add to that.
All right. This has been C's Backstage. No, but seriously. So, I guess the other things I want to sort of ask you or maybe cue you up for. So if we're looking at a contract from in-house, maybe when you're even signing, if you're signing with, let's look at a hotel, because that's where the majority of shows probably happen. There's so many more hotels than there are convention or other venues out there. When you're going as a buyer and you're signing that contract and it says, must use in-house or something, or there's always something in there that's or must have liaison on site.
Yeah.
There's been several times where I've had a client that's worked with us for years and said, hey, this hotel is telling me I've got to pay for a liaison on site. Can you tell me how much that might cost me or what that is before I sign this? And I've said, why don't you try just redlining that and see what happens? And I would say maybe not 9 times out of 10, but 6, 7, 9 times out of 10, it's usually accepted. They're like, we know those guys. They've been in here before.
Right.
We're not worried.
Yeah. I think what people got to realize is everything's negotiable, right? Even in-house contracts, our contracts, like it's all a negotiation. We're trying to make it work. So, you don't have to sign that as is. You can redline those things. You can bring it to us to look at stuff. Like the worst thing is when I don't even mean selfishly, like for our company, like losing business is real result, but like, when they force you to sign this thing, let's say 9 months out and you're not thinking, right? But they go, oh, we're going to give you, discounted, meals, alcohol. I had one client say, oh, they're throwing in like massages and stuff for me and my staff. And it's like, so when you sign that because of all those and you don't look through the verbiage, oh, like you're going to have to pay for this and that and that. And you can really get, I don't want to say screwed, but you can get screwed if you're not careful. So
you can get screwed. Yeah.
I've sat in meetings with clients where, on the spot, I've listened to the in-house try to pitch internet that they didn't need and all these other things. And I'm just like, don't need that. So like, I'm happy to go with a client and sit in on an in-house meeting, and just advocate for them, you know?
Yep. I think how do you respond to the assumption that it's cheaper to use in-house because we have to ship it from a warehouse? We have to maybe, we're based here in North County, San Diego, but maybe it's an event in Las Vegas, right? Yeah. Let's just say non-union property in Las Vegas, so it's kind of an even playing field. But they're going to be like, well, we have to bring you in, we have to put you up, at least a couple of techs, project manager on site. How do you have that conversation where the assumption is because they're local, because they're in the building, they're going to be cheaper?
Well, I think there's 2 parts. For one, that could be true, right? It could be true that, maybe they're cheaper. I would say a lot of the time they're not. We're at least competitive. But I think it's for the buyer to decide, hey, what matters more? Do I care more to save a few bucks by going with in-house, or do I care that my event goes well? Right? By hiring somebody that's really invested in the success of my event. Yep. And that's where we would come in. Whereas in-house, again, their main concern is being profitable. They're not going to ask you questions about, how do you want this event to look and feel? What's the objective? They're going to ask you, what do you need? They're going to send a couple texts there that may or may not have a lot of experience. And they're going to try to do it right, I don't think they're trying to screw up shows, but like they're not invested in the same way that we are because, like I said, they're in-house. They're gonna get another gig tomorrow after you leave, and we're on the other hand playing the long game, right? We want to have our clients really enjoy the experience of working with us and come back year after year after year. Yeah,
there was an event that I did recently where we went in. We were on the site visit with the client, and in-house was there to be with us. Was a client we'd already had for a few years, and we were looking at the ballroom, and the in-house AV company was, so stage goes here, kind of telling us what we were going to do. Stage goes here. We do 2 screens here, and this is the way we lay it out. And I'm looking at the room and I'm like, okay, but everybody's entering from the side, which is just not the best reveal, right?
Yeah.
Nice general session. You want people to come in from the back, see the screens, see the stage, and look forward like you're walking into a concert. And I was like, well, why wouldn't we want to set the room wide? So, people are coming in from the back, and their response was, yeah, but our power's over here. And I'm just like, that is not the direction.
It's easy.
Do you just,
it's
easier. We just do it this way. And it's like, no, 100 feet of cable will move the power right over here.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. And we did it the way we wanted to do it because we wanted to deliver that experience. And then we wanted the attendees to come in and be wowed as soon as they walked into the room, instead of walking in and going, oh, neat. Right?
Yeah.
That's not how we want it to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think this is like a hot topic right now because at least locally, I feel like, there's one company we all know that's just kind of buying up all the other companies and getting like more and more kind of like forceful. And again, like, it's not a knock on the people that work there. It's just, I can't think of a time where the lack of competition in a market has been good for people, right?
Yeah.
Like, how often is one company monopolizing something been good for everybody? I can't, like, name one.
Yeah. No, I can't.
So this is no different,
Yep.
It's the same thing.
And there's going to be, like, we even see things, clients will share with us a quote from in-house and be like, hey, can you explain we don't understand what the service fee is? And my response is always, I don't understand either.
I don't know either, yeah.
But that's something you got to ask the question. And we've had clients ask the question and been told that it's just something we have to put in. But they're just trying to mark it up because they know that they're in-house and they can kind of do whatever they want. And then now we're even seeing where they're offering, we'll give you a free microphone in every room, or we'll give you free internet or something like that. But I think when you really pull it all together, and I'm seeing this over and over, I think we're seeing this as a company over and over. Okay, you're saving this much money on the internet, but when we price it out the way we normally price it out, we're coming in about equal, right?
Yeah.
Even with that.
But even if we're a little more, again, I go back to like, what do you care about, right? Like we did an event last year. We lost an event last year because somebody came and undercut us by like half. And then that company came in and screwed it up so royally that we not only came back and did it this year, they already locked us up for next year.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you care about? And the person that made that decision last year got fired as a result.
I didn't know that. I thought we just got a really good apology. Sorry we didn't use you guys again. I didn't realize they got let go.
Yeah,
okay.
No, that person actually got fired. So again, what do you care about, right? Yeah, sure, save a few bucks, right? Maybe we are going to be a little bit more expensive, but I guarantee you we're going to do a better job. We're going to be invested in the success of that project. Yeah.
There's a lot of times too where I'll see an in-house, sort of like a quote or somebody that a client's sharing, and they'll say like, you've got 4 or 5 guys in that room for the show. They only have 2. Why? And I'm like, well, we know what needs to go right. And if any of those things go wrong, that guy's going to disappear on you. Yeah. And you're not going to have anybody there.
Yeah.
So,
when we put these bids together, we know what we need crew-wise to do the show right? It may not be the same as everybody else, but we know, hey, this is like the optimal, situation to set your show up for success, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm putting it on there in the first place.
And we're always trying to mitigate risk, because I still say, like, I was just giving a talk earlier this week and talking about the main stage and what it takes to manage that main stage. And it doesn't matter how big that show is. When I'm standing at the back of the room, everything I've done to help set up that show, putting the right people in the right seats and everything, until when that CEO or that person takes the stage and starts speaking, I swear my heart stops for a minute till I hear those first words and then the first toggle forward of their PowerPoint presentation, right? And then you're like, okay, all right. But that's why we put all those people in there. Yeah. And that's why we make sure that we're giving it the attention. We're, giving it the what it needs to make it work. Yeah. And work better than even hopefully you expected.
Yeah. That's why I don't go on show as much as I used to, is I don't have any more hair to lose.
So stressful.
It's so stressful.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like other industries where, oh, we screwed it up, just redo it.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yeah.
like you get one take, right?
Yeah.
And it needs to be right. So don't you want the best possible person behind whatever it is to make that go right? Like, it's probably not the guy making $15 an hour,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. I think the other thing is, they're so used to, in-house is so used to working in their venue that they, I wouldn't say cut corners, but they give you the basic. They give you, here's what we've done before. Sometimes they'll be like, all right, we want something more than just drape in the center. So it's some tile that they've rented that we would rent from the same company and bring in. They hang it and it's like, okay, but they're doing that same thing. They're rinsing and repeating, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing the same thing in the same spaces over and over, whereas we're doing different things in different spaces all the time, which you get a team that is going to be walking into those rooms, and instead of putting the stage there, let's put it there, or let's put it in the middle of the room, or, what we've seen, what we've been engaged with is going to be just from experience, and we don't charge for that. This is the volume. Yeah. We do these other events. We bring a lot more to the table.
Oh yeah. And our freelancers too, right? They're not just working for us. They're working for, 20, 30 other companies, and they see things in other places that we don't see. And then they bring ideas to us. It's, that collaboration is what makes a company like us successful, and better. I don't know.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a time and a place for in-house. If you got a simple breakout and, yeah, I mean, cost is your key objective. Okay, maybe they can handle it.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. There's times where I've just been straight up and honest about look, we're going to come in, we're going to manage your general session, but your breakout rooms, looks like in-house is giving you a great rate.
Yeah.
Let them do the breakout rooms and let's work together on that. Or there's times where I'm like, okay, you guys bring in this, here's a great example where we'll find out that maybe they've got a setup in that room the same way we're going to do it the next day. Mm-hmm. Leave the rigging in, we'll go in and we'll adjust our design to fit that rigging, or maybe they're your screens that are in-house. Just leave them up. We'll bring in our stuff and we'll fill in around that, or whatever that works. There's so many ways to actually work with in-house.
Yep.
And I'd be honest, I prefer it that way because we need to lean on each other for certain things.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to make them out to be the enemy. Mm-hmm. Again, there's a lot of good people there. I just think that, like I said before, the lack of competition just makes it often not the best choice that people have, and that's just reality.
Yeah. Right on. All right. Well, this has been C's Backstage, your all access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at cspro.com/backstage or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and set those reminders as these come out on the first and third Thursday of every month. Thanks again, Zach, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Yo.